The end. And that's it. That's all of Death Note. Or is it? What's going on, folks? Zach from Uchu Shelf here. Hope you guys are doing good and reading lots of manga. Today, I want to give you guys my first impression and a review of the newest Death Note one-shot that actually just came out today. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you haven't read the chapter yet, check out the link in the description below or head over to Viz's Shonen Jump app where it is there translated for free for you guys to read right now. So before we get into it, in terms of continuity, this takes place directly after the additional story that was included in the Death Note All-in-One edition. It may have also been included in those hardcover, like the black editions, I believe they're called. If not, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if it's directly related, but I know that some of the characters that were in that are in this as well. So we get introduced to Minoru Tanaka, who 2 years prior to the events of this story, met the same fate as Light. He saw a Death Note fall from the sky, he met Ryuk, but instead of taking Ryuk up on his offer, he says, you know what, take the Death Note back, come back in 2 years, and we'll do it then. Now, before he comes to this conclusion, Minoru and Ryuk actually get to know each other a bit. They talk about Light. It's actually revealed that Light has actually made it into elementary school ethics books, which I thought was a really cool detail. And in exchange for some apples, Minoru says, you know what, why don't you give me the Cliff Notes version of what actually went down? So back in present day, Ryuk finally returns, hands in the notebook, and says, alright, let's get to work. Let's see what you're capable of. And instead of doing what Light did, Minoru says, you know what, I'm gonna sell this thing. I'm gonna make bank off this. But the way he does it is quite clever. So it's been 10 years since the events of Death Note actually took place, and they both know that the world is changing. There's more security cameras, there's CCTV everywhere, everyone is a little bit more on edge and paranoid. So selling the Death Note through the internet, places like eBay or Amazon or Craigslist, if that's still a thing, is going to be damn near impossible. Minoru's concocted a plan that makes everything go smoothly and perfectly without ever tracing it back to him. So Minoru has Ryuk basically take a piece of paper that says something along the lines of, hey, guess what? Kira's Death Note's for sale, but you have to go on Twitter and use hashtag #PowerOfKira and place your bid in American dollars. No way that's ever getting traced back to him, right? So he does this and it just kicks off. In less than a day, the bid is up to $3 million. It's worth noting that anyone who saw this newscast only saw a floating piece of paper. Remember, whoever has touched the Death Note can see Ryuk. So interestingly enough, Aizawa and Matsuda, two cops who were on the original Kira task force, are watching TV, they see Ryuk, and they go, shit. This again? This guy again? Now, meanwhile, in the United States of America, we get to see Nier again, which I thought was a pretty cool detail. He's adopted the entire moniker of L. He's creating 3D facial recognition for Shinigami, and he knows what's going on in America, so he's trying to spin the wheels in his head, figure out how to get ahead of this thing. Now, between Nier/L and Aizawa and Matsuda, it's a race to figure out where Ryuk is, who Ryuk is working with. As well, everybody is just trying to bid on this and figure out what the hell is going on, because this is supposed to be a world post-Kira. Plus, there's the anxiety that comes along with, well, what if a bad guy buys the Death Note? So eventually the auctions get way out of hand. There is so much money being flown around. It gets to the point where actual countries and presidents are bidding on this thing. There's a huge bidding war between China and the United States of America. The bid actually goes up to $1 quadrillion. Wasn't even aware there was that much money in the world. So the United States of America eventually wins the auction, and L/Nier decides, you know what, this is perfect, because the only way now we can catch Akira is red-handed, by handing the Death Note off and collecting the money. Except Minoru is already one step ahead of him. He has Ryuk go back on television one last time and hold up a cue card that says, this amount of money must be evenly distributed between all these certain amount of people under this certain age to this specific bank, which works out to being 1 billion yen per person, which is not an insignificant amount of money just to get for the hell of it. Now, I'm not going to spoil the rest of this. If you want to go check it out, I'll leave a link in the description below. Go over to Viz's Shonen Jump app. Might be on Manga Plus 2, not 100% sure. Suffice to say, it was actually a very satisfying ending. Wraps up everything perfectly. It was a nice little addition to Death Note as well, which I found. And honestly, left it open for continuing, which, honestly, after reading this, I didn't know how much I even missed Death Note. It was just a book on my shelf, something that I used to be super into back in high school. And I read it again, and it gave me the exact same feelings the original Death Note did. It was incredible. I read it, I was halfway through, and I was like, damn, it is good to be back. I think like any normal anime and manga fan, to see a huge giant of the anime and manga world come back for a one-shot, everyone, I think, including me, was kind of skeptical. But as I mentioned, I actually really enjoyed this chapter. I thought it was the perfect addition. It was added to the story and canon perfectly, and in such a way that it doesn't detract from the original story at all. Admittedly, I didn't like the main character at first because he looks like the kind of like Fortnite zoomer that hangs out in front of a chicken shop, just shouting random crap at anybody who passes by. Not that that's happened to me or anything. Honestly, by the end of it, I actually really liked his character. The way that he came up with the plan to not only just get the money, but to evenly distribute it was just fantastic. And another thing is, I shouldn't have been surprised with how this ended, knowing Obata and Ohba, but having not touched the series in years, and just getting to that ending, I was like, ooh. But then after thinking about it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And one cool thing is that Ryuk added a rule to the Death Note. I'm not going to spoil it. I thought it was super clever. But I mean, there's not a whole lot bad I can say about this. I mean, some points it feels real gratuitous. It didn't play into the whole cameo thing as much as a lot of rebooted series did, which I was really worried that they might do. They mostly focused on this new character, mostly focused on Ryuk, honestly, and just how the world reacted to the notion, just the very idea that Kira might be back. Honestly, though, a welcome addition to the Death Note canon, to the Death Note world. Didn't think I'd be saying this. I want them to just cancel Platinum End and work on this again, because who the hell cares about Platinum End? Anyways, folks, if you haven't read this yet, definitely do that. I'll leave links in the description below. If you have, let me know what you thought. Try not to spoil it in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter @UchuShelf. And as always, don't forget to support legal manga. Go to www.wherecanIreadmanga.com to get the lowdown on where you can read manga for free, through a subscription, or per volume, and do it all in a way that supports the industry and gets us more manga. It's a win-win for everyone. And until next time, folks, happy reading.